Welcome to 30-Minute Reviews. I am Adam. So I got two TV-related topics to cover today. First, yesterday, a topic we haven't really addressed on the show too much because the show began and ended before we started the podcast, and the show would be Breaking Bad. They're making a movie, Breaking Bad, the movie. Some casting news came out yesterday. We already knew when the movie was announced that Jesse would be in the movie. We knew that going forward. Now, this is going to spoil the hell out of Breaking Bad. So if you haven't watched it yet, you're going to get that spoiled for you. So what we have is they announced, we knew that because Jesse was going to be in there, they were probably going to feature his friends. So the news that Badger is going to be in it, and the other guy whose name I'm forgetting, that's not really news. The news is two characters who were dead on the show will be returning. As you know, if you've watched the show ended with the presumed death of Walter White. We don't know if that's accurate or not. Or we don't know if he's actually dead because it was left kind of on a cliffhanger in that respect, where he could have been killed or he could have been picked up by DEA and brought into and taken for medical help, considering he was shot several times. But he's probably dead. I think that's the safe assumption everyone goes with, is that he's dead. But to keep people interested, they keep saying, in like Better Call Saul and things like that, they keep saying like, oh, he may not be dead, he may still be alive. The other one that's far more interesting, because this isn't a presumed death, this is a on-screen death that had a ramification on the show. That is Kristen Ritter's Jane will be coming back too. Now, Jesus fucking Christ, ESPN. Now, I'm not entirely familiar with, or I've watched the show once. I never watched it a second time. I don't remember the season ordering. I think for certain Jane came before Gus, and the reason why I say that's important is that Gus has not been expected to reprise his role. So there are two situations that are in play here. Number one is that these characters are not dead, because this movie takes place during what I seem to recall as season 2 of Breaking Bad, where Jane was alive, and so was Walter. So because it's an interquel of sorts, it's going to they have less room to play. What I think is possibly more likely is that these two characters wouldn't have major starring roles in the movie. They're just listed in the cast list, but they are. And I'm gonna say this too. This wasn't an official cast list that was released. This is me reading an article about what another podcast said about the cast list that they said they had seen. But because it had gotten traction on comicbook.com, which may not be the best source for all of this, that's the only reason it caught my attention, is because it was on comicbook.com. So I think what's more likely is that these characters are both dead, and that these are small roles for, at a minimum, Jane has a small role. But I think there could be a larger role beyond death. These characters aren't real, they're not ghosts, they're not brought back to life in any way. They are manifestations of Jesse's subconscious. He sees them in dreams. He sees them like he's what's it called? It's a manifestation of his guilt, of what his actions has led to, and it led to the death of his mentor Walter, and it led to the death of his girlfriend Jane. So I think that would probably be the safer bet to go with, because you can have Walter have a larger role. In the same way this happens in the second thing, the same way Prometheus has that small role in one episode of Season 6 of Arrow, where despite being dead, he's just a manifestation of what Oliver believes of himself. That could be what Walter's doing, is he's either trying to lead him right, which was something that Walter was always trying to do on the show, is trying to keep Jesse from, being too shitty if I remember correctly, which again, I watched this one time right after the show ended, so my memory's a little foggy. Or it could be him, believing that, viewing Walter as, just you got him killed, this is your fault, which wouldn't be unsurprising, considering what goes on the show. Now, it's going to be my second thing. I'm caught up on Arrow. I'm caught up on The Flash. I'm caught up on Legends. I am in the process of catching up on Supergirl. I'm halfway through season 2 of Supergirl, catching up. But I've not started season 4 yet. So season 7 of Arrow and season 5 of The Flash have two similar problems, and I think it's just that, what the fuck is going on? Why the fuck are we still dealing with these issues the way they are? Let's start with The Flash, because this one's pissing me off more and more every week that this continues with the stupidity with Cicada. As I've said before about Cicada, there is no reason for Cicada to have been anything more than a one-off villain, like maybe season 2. You could have had Cicada be the guy that anytime he used his powers, he got older. The one that Barry had to deal with when he didn't have his powers after Zoom took him away. That could have been Cicada that week. And it would have been no problem. The only reason that Cicada is a larger threat than he is because the plot demands it. So, like I said, in the mid-season finale, when they fight Cicada and Cisco breaches the dagger into deep space, that was the dumbest way to do it. It wasn't even deep space. He breached into low Earth orbit. Why didn't he just breach it into, I don't know, that dead Earth that they would move the radiation from Fallout to in that episode where Barry's on trial last season? Why didn't they breach it to Earth 38 and have Supergirl take it, or 38, 36, or whatever? Breach it to Earth X, breach it to Earth 2 and have Wells take care of it. There are so many other alternatives of things you can do with this that you don't need to have the same thing happening over and over, because now this week they have Cicada once again, for now I think the third or fourth time this season, they have Cicada dead to rights and he escapes. How does this keep happening? It just makes the characters all look incompetent, because this should be the easiest villain they've ever had to deal with, because he doesn't have powers and the only thing he has is he's got the dagger. And you brought in the Green Arrow to help you when you were fighting the Reverse Flash in Season 1. And you know what the problem with that was? What the fuck's the Green Arrow going to do against the Reverse Flash? You know what the Green Arrow would be useful against? A guy who, if you disable his dagger, he's a normal person. 100%, that's something that you can use the Green Arrow for. And earlier in the season they said, the Green Arrow could never track him. But now you have him. In the mid-season finale, you had him and you had his dagger disabled. Why didn't you say, hey, Oliver, why don't you come help us? Because Oliver was out of prison at that point. Okay? And then if you're not going to do that, now, when you're at when they're in the most recent episode, Oliver is still out of prison, now for 3 episodes, and he has nothing going on in the entire episode that week. He is literally just brooding about, his father lied to him about Emiko for years, and giving Emiko a shitty life. So, it's just bullshit that they couldn't call him in for this. Because this is a much easier thing to deal with. That would have been handled. Like, you stopped him from being Ra's al Ghul for an episode, just so that way he can come in and help you fight your fucking Reverse Flash, when really, he didn't do too much to stop him. He slowed him down temporarily. Like, his contributions to that fight were negligible. And you stopped him from leading the League of Assassins just so he can come to Central City and fight the Reverse Flash. You couldn't bother him, hey, do you want to come over here real quick and get your mind off of this shit going on with your new half-sister and come and fight this metahuman killer we have? Like, honestly. And even so, he's an agent in the Star City Police Department. By all means. Like, what the fuck? And then on Arrow, you have, why the fuck are they recruiting Diaz to the Suicide Squad? I understand Deadshot. I understand all these other characters that they have in the Suicide Squad on the CW. I understand why they're all there, and it all makes sense. My question is, Why Diaz? What does Diaz bring to the table? And my answer is nothing. He's not a meta. He's a good planner, but he's not the one doing the planning. You don't need the bad guy to do the planning on the Suicide Squad. They're a group of expendable villains that you can use to carry out missions the government can't. That's what they're there for. And you don't need to have this guy there, because all he can do is plan very well. And I'm going to give him that. He's a very good planner, but he's not anything special when it comes to fighting or using a gun or anything like that. He just knows how to use pressure points emotionally. So all you're doing is setting yourself up for another thing when you inevitably send him out with the Suicide Squad or whatever it is, Operation Phantom or whatever the hell they're calling it now, because they can't call it Suicide Squad because of the movies that failed. But you're sending him out on this mission, it's going to go bad, he's going to get the bomb out of his neck, and he's going to escape. That's all you're setting yourself up for. And it's stupid, and we know better than to do this, but the characters are all acting incredibly stupid on all of these shows now. Hopefully next week it picks back up, but we will see what happens then. So, we'll wrap it up there for today. Have a good week.